Okay guys, so I was filling up my pinning kits that I use in my vehicle and I figured I would do a video on them. So this is the main one that I use for pretty much all my rekeys at the truck. It's just a Lab 3000ths flat pinning kit. I also have a wedge that's an angled one for countertops that I use in the shop. It's the same size. And we've got a Woody. This is an old Woody, probably 20, 25 years old maybe, and it's a darker colored wood. You can get a Woody now with the IC kits, but I don't think I've ever seen a Woody. I don't think they do them for the regular kits anymore. And when they do, they're not this dark. This is like a rosewood, I think, so it was a special edition maybe. And then I most recently got this mini kit to carry in a bag for when I had to go to a long distance away and I didn't want to walk back and forth. And this is a neat little kit, but it's not an ideal pinning kit if you're gonna have it on a bench, because while it doesn't take up a whole lot of room, it doesn't hold a lot of pins, and I'll get to that in a minute. So basically pins come in either dual packs like this, for those that don't know, or they come in vials like this. And there's 75 in each one of these, and I think the vials either have 75 or 100 pins in it. So when you're filling up a pin kit, basically, I cut the corner on the dual packs. I will cut the corner like so, and then I'll come in and I'll just kind of dump it into the chamber. So this main kit that I use obviously has all the top pins up top, all the bottom pins starting here going down. This bottom row from here to here really isn't used a whole lot, and you can see on these last few that I've gone ahead and switched out those longest pins with spool pins of different sizes. And also, you can't see it right now, but up here in this far top, this 15 thousandths pin that you're really not supposed to use, the little thin, narrow, or short master wafers per se, I've got some extra springs and little tiny screws. So that's one reason why some of these are lower, because really you very, very rarely use these except on oddball commercial locks and stuff. So I've gone ahead and I've already filled up this one with everything I've got, and it looks like I'm out at 264, 273, 276, 279, 285, and that was it. So what I do, since I keep this pinning kit for backup in my truck in case I run out on a big job and I run out of pins, I'll keep this in the truck pretty much full also, so that I can either switch it out immediately or just spare pin storage. So like right now what I'm doing is I'm taking all these 276 out of here and I'm putting them into my main kit to use. And also on ones that have been riding in here for a while, they start getting a patina on the pins. They're not as shiny anymore, which really doesn't affect anything, but it's more of a visual issue for me. So I've taken the measurements of the 3 pinning kits, and this really isn't meant to be a long, drawn-out video or whatever, but so basically, when you're thinking about pinning kits, you're always having to think about where you're going to be using the pinning kit. They make a square version of the Lab that's very handy. I've always wanted to buy one of those, but I really don't have a need for it since I've got plenty of kits. So basically what I did, you can get the manufacturer's measurements, which are exact measurements, but really when you're talking about an exact measurement, if you have it on your counter, you know, they give you one measurement, but when you open it, you gotta think about your clearance every which way. So these are kind of wider measurements than probably what you're gonna find online. And that is because when it's sitting in your vehicle or sitting on your counter, it doesn't take up the manufacturer's room that it says. It actually takes up more room because you got to have room to open it, number one. Say if you have a shelf and you got to have room up to here. So what I did is I took the measurements of the widest and the deepest and the tallest it could be. So the Lab regular rectangular kit, flat one, not the wedge, is 22 wide by 9 deep by 9 inches high. And when I say 9 inches high, I measured it from the top of here to the very bottom of where it sits. So open, it's 9 inches high, and that includes the hat. You can't forget about these that clasp shut. So that's up to here. And then 1.5 inches closed, again measuring to give clearance for these. The Woody, which I guess this is probably the same size as the IC Woody that's sold now, 16 wide, because it has a bottom drawer that comes out, 9 deep, deep this way, and 10.5 open. Now the one thing about the Woody is it only has regular hinges, so the lid goes back. So if you're going to be using this on a countertop, it's ideal to have a backer to hold that up in place. Otherwise it takes up a lot of room. So 9 deep, 10.5 inches open, and that would be straight up and down, and then 3 inches closed. It's the thickest kit, and that's because of how it's constructed. And I'm going to go back to that real quick, but then I'll show you this mini kit. We have 8 3/4 wide by 6 inches deep by 6.5 open by 1 inches closed. Now obviously this is the smallest kit, and the only thing I don't like about this kit, other than the really small chambers, which kind of is a necessity to make it smaller, is the latch. They really should fix this latch. I'm not at all happy about that. So when I'm carrying that, and a lot of people keep the cardboard sleeve that it came in, but really I opened this a whole lot, so that cardboard sleeve pretty much broke quickly. So if you're going to be putting this in a bag, which I've got this little small tool bag here, you need to make sure that the bag's small enough to keep it from like flipping open on its own. So that's something you got to take into consideration if you're using this as a mobile kit, which it is. Let me grab that phone. Okay, sorry about that. So anyway, yeah, you gotta consider how you're gonna be carrying it and transporting it so that it doesn't flip open on you accidentally. All right, so of course, with more room, you have more room to hold pins. So when you're filling the pin kit, it's very easy for this one and this one to dump 1 to 1.5, sometimes 2 in the chamber holes. Now the Woody, I've always wanted to get some bits and some pieces of wood, and I've tried doing this with a couple over the years, but to make a custom kit kind of just like this, when you reach in here with your fingertip, hold on. Oh, busy phone morning. Okay, so Friday, typical. Where was I? So the best thing I like about this kit is how it's rounded, and you can just reach in there. Even when it gets real low, you can reach in and do that. Same way with these is plastic. This is, like I said, a really old kit, and it's rounded. You can reach in with your finger on most of the chambers. When you get to the mini kit, you really have to use tweezers. And again, one of the main problems with the mini kit is, while it's ideal to carry around, if you are planning on doing like a 3 or 4 door house, the problem is each chamber only holds a certain amount of pins, and they're all the same size. So obviously you're going to hold a greater number of short pins in the chambers than you would in the bigger length ones. So, you know, I've never really counted. Let's go ahead and just count the most common one, 300. It's not real full there, but let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have done this before. 6, 7. Wrong one. That is the wrong pin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That one's the wrong pin too. I guess this chamber needed cleaning out. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So that's only 11 pins, and I could probably squeeze a few more in here. And I really do try to pack this one as much as I can, because if you're on a house with, say, 4 doors that each have 3 cylinders each, and you have a key that uses 2 or even 3 of that pin, say where I was using a Schlage key with the cuts of 79979, that would be 3 9s on that key, and then you got to multiply that times the number of cylinders. So 4 doors times 3, that's 12 cylinders. 12 cylinders times 3 comes out to be like 36, 12, 24, 30, yeah, 36 pins. Obviously you would run out of pins way into that rekey. So if you're using this pin kit for mobile purposes, and you do have to do several doors, then I would highly recommend you go ahead and cut your keys, your setup keys for the job, because obviously you have to bring keys with you to rekey mobily. So what I do is I will cut up keys that don't have duplicates in the bitting, and so it'll be like 4, 5, 3, 1, 7, or 6, or whatever. It doesn't violate Mac's rule, but that way there's no duplicates, and if you do have to do a lot of doors, like 4 or 5 doors, you don't have to worry about it as much running out of the pins. Now, also another thing is you do have to have very accurate keys, which isn't a problem for us. We do our best to make the most accurate keys possible. So, and one reason for that is if you're keying a lock and your spacing or your depth, or even if it's like a cheap lock and it's not set to manufacturer specifications, you have to use like off pins from the numbers that the gauge tells you. So if you have a number 2 Schlage and you're 195 and you're using this kit, now this one does have 192, but then it skips down to 189, which leaves you a gap. So and it goes from 195 to 201. So say your key is a little bit deep and you needed a 198 or well, that's not really a good example, but a good example would be 270 to 276. So that skips 1. It pretty much skips 1 all the way across, except in a couple of spots it skips 2. Now, to alleviate that, you could get rid of some of these longer pins, but again, it skips, even in the longer pins, like I mentioned earlier, they're not used as much, so it skips more. It goes 315 to 330, that's 15 thousandths, which is several pin sizes that are in here. So that's one thing you have to be aware of is when you cut your keys, number one, make sure they all have different bitting, there's no duplicate bitting, and that way you don't run out of pins as easily. Now obviously with the bigger kits like this, you don't have to worry about that. One of the main problems, and I forgot with my measurements, say if I was master keying, you have to have this all the way out. So I'm gonna go back real quick, and actually you need it to be 15 and a half inches deep to have full, to be able to rekey, if you're master keying as well. So that's kind of one downfall about the Woody, which is one reason why I don't use it. Because where I have this pinning kit, I don't have room to pull that out like that. And another thing on the Woody is I'm going to clasp it closed real quick and kind of carefully show you the bottom. Is the bottom legs of it doesn't sit like there's a hollow out right here, and that's because of how this drawer slides out. So if you're balancing it on something like on your countertop, you have to remember that there's going to be this gap from here to here, and that may affect certain things, because basically this pin kit part that slides out is the bottom of the thing, and it rests on the feet of the edges of the wood. So again, that's not that big of a deal because a lot of people don't have these. Those that do are very familiar with it, unless you have the IC kit version, which I think you can still buy. So again, I'll show you here. This is how I keep if you order enough pins, they'll send you the actual box that the pin manufacturers send out from Lab. So you keep one of those and you put your pins in there by number, and you come in and you just fill the kit up. So that's really it on the pinning kit thing, and like I said, I was just filling up the pinning kit, so I figured I'd do a video and talk to y'all about it in case y'all were in the market for a pin kit. These are, this is obviously the least expensive one, but if you're going to do any volume of keying on a lock, it's best just to get a bigger kit, because you can literally, number one, it comes full and it'll last you, if you don't do a lot, it'll last you a long time. Number two, when you buy replacement pins, if you totally run out of one and you buy a vial, you can dump the whole thing in there, whereas with the mini pinning kit, you're only going to be able to dump between, 15 for the biggest and maybe 30 to 35 for the shortest pins in there. So you're always going to have more of a backup, which is not going to be as convenient. Along with the fact that you can't just reach in with your fingertip and pull it out. So again, if y'all have any questions, put them in the comments. I'm pretty sure most people who watch this video are familiar with pin kits, but if you do have any questions on any of them, let me know and I'll be glad to answer them. Thanks for watching. Happy Friday.